Welcome to Inspirational Stories. Today we're diving into a heartwarming tale about Robert Downey Jr. and the teacher who changed his life when no one else believed in him. The audience sat in silence as the lights dimmed in the studio. Everyone waited with anticipation for the special guest to arrive. The host shuffled his papers and glanced toward the entrance. A moment later, the door opened quietly, and Robert Downey Jr. walked in with his characteristic confident stride. He was dressed simply in dark jeans, a black t-shirt, and a casual blazer. His hair was slightly tousled, and he wore his familiar goatee. The audience welcomed him with enthusiastic applause, and Robert responded with a small wave and his trademark smile before taking a seat on the plush couch. The host began with easy questions about Robert's movies, asking for stories from the Iron Man set and funny moments with co-stars. Robert answered with his usual wit and charm, often giving credit to others rather than taking it for himself. As the interview progressed, the atmosphere in the studio gradually shifted to something deeper and more meaningful. Today, we also want to talk about something different, the host said, closing one of his folders and leaning forward. About the people who shaped you, the ones who left a mark before the fame came. Robert blinked slowly, his shoulders relaxed and his gaze dropped to the floor. The entire studio grew still. After a long pause, Robert finally spoke, his voice quieter than before. "There's someone," he said, "a man I haven't seen in decades, my high school teacher." The audience listened intently as Robert continued. "He didn't just teach me literature, he taught me how to survive when my soul wanted to give up." Robert looked up at the ceiling as if searching for a distant memory. "I remember something he said to me once, on one of those days when I just wanted to disappear." He took a deep breath. "You don't have to be perfect to be important." His words echoed through the studio. Someone in the audience quietly wiped away tears. "That saved me," Robert added. "It really did, but I never got the chance to thank him." When asked to describe his teacher, Robert's face softened with affection. Tall, slim, always with books under his arm. He had a quiet laugh and this way of making you feel worthy even when everyone else ignored you. Robert paused, collecting himself. "I was a confused teenager. My father was absent. My sister was starting to get sick, and I thought I was stupid, worthless. I had dyslexia. The other kids laughed at me, but he gave me the lead role in a school play. He believed in me when I didn't even know what that meant." The host nodded thoughtfully. "Sounds like he saw something in you before you could see it in yourself." Robert responded with a slight nod. "He looked at me like someone who sees a warrior before the armor's even built." What Robert didn't know was that his former teacher was sitting in the last row of the studio audience. The host revealed this surprising fact, and soft lights illuminated the back row. Robert turned toward the silhouette, his eyes widening as if his soul recognized someone his mind hadn't fully processed yet. The host invited Robert to share more about his childhood. "I was a pretty broken kid," Robert admitted. "My dad was gone. My mom was doing her best, but we moved around a lot. My sister was getting sick. We didn't know exactly what it was at first, but the hospital visits started coming more often. And me, I was just trying to stay invisible." Robert described his struggles with dyslexia in vivid detail. The words didn't sit still on the page. They jumped, danced, mocked me. I failed classes, got teased. Teachers didn't know what to do with me. Some gave up. Most just ignored me, except one. That special teacher gave Robert perspective, patience, and presence. "He looked at me like I wasn't broken, just not yet unfolded," Robert explained. One day after class, when Robert had stuttered while reading aloud and everyone had laughed, the teacher sat down next to him and said those words that would stick with him forever. "You don't have to be perfect to be important." "It was the first time someone saw worth in me," Robert said. "Not because I was good at something, but because I existed. That changed everything." The teacher had cast Robert in the lead role of a school play despite his struggles. When Robert asked why, the teacher replied, "This role isn't about performance. It's about presence, and you have that." The teacher believed in something Robert couldn't even define in himself. What was even more remarkable, as the host revealed, was that during that same year, Robert's teacher was facing a personal tragedy. He had lost someone close to him, experiencing deep grief. Yet instead of closing his heart, he opened it to a struggling student. Robert was stunned by this revelation. I had no idea, he said quietly. That makes everything he did even more powerful. He wasn't just teaching, he was giving. Throughout his life, Robert had kept a letter his teacher had given him. He pulled it from his blazer pocket, a small, time-worn paper folded into a tight square. I've kept it for all these years, he said, holding it up gently. The letter read, "Even silence has a sound. Robert, listen to your soul before the world drowns it out. You're not lost. You're learning how to hear." That line carried me, Robert explained, pressing the letter to his chest. When my sister almost died, when I couldn't act, when I wanted to give up. It reminded me that quiet doesn't mean empty. It means sacred. He had carried this letter with him through continents, cities, careers, and relationships. Sometimes I didn't believe in myself, but I believed in the boy he wrote this to. That was enough to keep going. The host then handed Robert another envelope. The handwriting on it was immediately familiar to him. Inside was a note that read, "Your silence spoke louder than any applause. I've heard every word you never said." Robert looked up toward the back row of the audience, visibly moved by this message from his past. "If I could say something to him right now," Robert said, voice trembling, "I would say thank you for seeing me, for hearing what I couldn't say, for teaching me that silence doesn't mean I'm alone." The host asked Robert what he would tell his teacher if he could hear him now. "I'd tell him that he didn't just help me pass a class, he helped me stay alive. He helped me believe there was something inside me worth fighting for." Robert's voice grew stronger as he continued. "Every film I've made, every line I've spoken, every time I walked into a room where I felt like I didn't belong, I carried his voice with me." Finally, the moment everyone had been waiting for arrived. The man from the last row stood up slowly and walked down the aisle toward Robert. Years showed in his steps, but there was purpose in every movement. Robert met him halfway, and they embraced in a long, powerful hug. When they pulled apart, Robert's eyes were glassy with emotion. The teacher introduced himself as Charles Whitmore. "Keanu," he said gently, "you weren't just a student. You were my reminder that even in grief, even in silence, there's reason to keep going." Mr. Whitmore revealed that the year he taught Robert, he had lost his wife and didn't think he could continue teaching. "Everything in me wanted to shut down, but then you walked into my class, quiet, hurt, but full of something no one else saw." "I never knew," Robert said, stunned. "You never said." "I didn't need to," Mr. Whitmore replied. "You gave me purpose again just by being there. Watching you fight to stay present, to try despite everything. It brought me back to life." When asked why he believed in Robert so deeply, Mr. Whitmore explained that he saw a rare kind of empathy in him. "You didn't speak much in class, but I watched you stay behind to help others. You listened when no one else did. You noticed things that most kids ignored. That wasn't acting. That was who you were." Mr. Whitmore shared a memory of Robert sitting next to a boy with cerebral palsy during a group project. While other students ignored or mocked the boy, Robert had held the book for him, helped him point to words and whispered the lines. When others laughed, Robert hadn't stopped. "That day I knew you weren't just kind. You were light," Mr. Whitmore said. "The goodness no one sees is the truest kind." As a final gift, Mr. Whitmore handed Robert a small bundle wrapped in brown paper and tied with old string. Inside was an essay Robert had written as a student. The title read, "When I grow up, I want to be someone who makes pain smaller." Robert read aloud from his childhood writing, "I want to be someone who understands people even when they can't say what hurts. I don't think I'll be famous, but I want to be kind. I want to be the kind of person who makes a room feel safer." "I kept this," Mr. Whitmore explained, "because I knew it wasn't just an assignment. It was who you already were." Robert placed a hand over his heart, deeply moved. "I thought acting was pretending, but the truth is, I've just been trying to live up to this page ever since." Mr. Whitmore smiled warmly. "You've already surpassed it." Turning to the audience, Robert spoke from the heart. "Fame didn't shape me. This man did, with one quiet belief spoken at the right time." He turned back to Mr. Whitmore. "You saw me when I was invisible, and now the world sees you," Mr. Whitmore replied simply. The audience stood in respectful silence, honoring the powerful connection between teacher and student that had endured across decades. Robert raised the microphone one last time. If today you had the chance to thank the person who saved you in silence, would you do it? He looked around the room. Sometimes one word spoken in time is worth more than a lifetime of success. If you enjoyed this emotional journey, please hit the subscribe button and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Remember, sometimes one small act of kindness can change someone's entire life. See you in the next video.